Hey, everybody. Welcome to Casas and Conversation with Darien Cruz. This is where we're going to talk about all sort of things related to real estate. Um, a lot of times we'll have guests on. Sometimes it's going to be just me. Today, I want to talk about the buying process on the buyer's end, what it's like, what that entails, what sort of information you need to know about beforehand, um, some of the details about the process. And it's a good one to set up some of the later episodes that we're going to have because I'm going to be having on some mortgage loan officers as well as some attorneys, real estate attorneys that can go into a little bit more in depth and detail into what is involved in their areas of expertise. But this will give you a good flavor for kind of what to expect when you're looking for a home and buying a home. And every agent may have a little bit of a different approach and may take a different approach depending on who the client is. I have some clients that just want a really abbreviated version. Just give me the overall idea of what we're going to do. Some care very little about the information, although it is really important. And there are others who just want every, minuscule detail. So it's good to not at least be prepared and have an idea of what you're going to be presenting when you're going in and talking to a buyer. So I have a couple of visuals that I kind of wanted to share with everyone today that I use in a buyer's presentation. Uh, One, for example, here is a really good breakdown. Actually, I'll show you my buyer's consultation that I usually use here. So here we're looking at, let's go full screen on that. This is generally what I would bring and present when I go to someone's home and they're interested in in the buying process. If we're going to have that long sit down conversation, this is the tool that I use. I'm going to go to the single page version. I don't prefer looking at 2 pages at a time. That's a brief bio. This is if someone maybe doesn't know me very well. If they want to get an idea of my background, we can get into that. Most of the clients I've already spoken to, they're comfortable with me. That's not something I really spend a lot of time on, but it's there if they want to see what my professional background is. So this is a really cool breakdown. I've had a couple clients tell me they really like this one sheet because it does lay out kind of the entire process. What's involved? Well, the first thing they're going to do, and I think the first two honestly are a little bit interchangeable, but uh, the first thing they're going to do is probably select what agent they want to work with or have an idea of who they plan on helping them with the process. We're essentially a consultant that's going to help organize everything for you and guide you through that whole journey to buying a home. And the first thing that I would do as soon as I know that someone is interested in buying a home is having them going through the process of obtaining a financial pre-approval, talking to their lender, whether it's a bank that they already bank with, a lending institution they want to work with, or if they need some guidance on that, we have vendors and mortgage loan officers that we work with, we develop close relationships with, that we trust and we know will do a good job for our clients. Um, we have no control over whether or not someone is approved or how much they'd be approved for. But these are just people that we understand their professionalism. So we have people that we can recommend that they go to. And that's fine. We're happy to help out with that to make those connections for them. And why is that so important? Well, you need to know really how much you can afford to spend on a house. What works within your budget, what makes sense for you, and what's going to meet your needs. Um, you know, I, a good example is if you're, approved for, let's say, $300,000. That's the amount that you're approved for to go buy a home. Well, if we've gone out already and started looking at homes that aren't in that bracket, it's just going to frustrate the process. For two reasons. One, if that's what you can afford and what you're comfortable with, you don't have to necessarily max out whatever it is that you can afford. But let's say that's where you're at. Well, if we've been looking at $1 million homes this whole time because that's what you want, it meets all the things that checked off on your list of your must-haves, you're going to be very disappointed. We go back and have to look at homes that are $700,000 less. It's a substantial difference. Even a difference of $100,000, $200,000 can make a big difference in terms of what neighborhoods you may be in, what house, what size house, square footage. All that comes into play. It can be very frustrating for a buyer if they've gone through that. Their hopes are already at a certain point, and they may not be able to meet them. After that. On the other hand, if you qualify for, let's say, that same 300,000, and you've been at looking at homes under 200. That's fine if you want to spend less, but you may also get frustrated because you may say, none of these homes are meeting the needs that I had, the expectations that I have. I'm not satisfied with any of these. Well, if you are able to then work within the appropriate budget, you may realize that you can actually get a little bit more house than you initially thought. Um, so these are some things that I really like to push right in the beginning. The next thing we're going to do is generally do a needs assessment. We're going to analyze what it is that you're looking for. And it's interesting because, we see here it says a needs analysis, right? Well, it's not all needs. A lot of it's going to be wants, and those are also important. Whatever home that you choose, you may have some must-haves, but you want to get a few of those would like to haves on the list as well. I do have a list that I use. If you're a realtor, I'm sure in your office you probably have some some samples that you can use when you go out. I happen to be with Keller Williams. We have some really good training. Uh, I have a list that I got from what we call our locker room training. That's excellent. It's really good. You can go through and see, how many people in the family, how many bedrooms do you have to have, how many bathrooms do you need? Is there a certain amount of square footage? Do you have pets? What kind of pets do you have? And that's the value of having a realtor. Things like that. There are neighborhoods where you can't have certain pets. They may not be allowed. And for a lot of people, myself included, if you have a pet, that's a member of the family, and that's going to take some priority, actually, even when you're thinking about buying a house, which some people think that's insane, but that's how it works with a lot of people. And so having a realtor that can kind of guide you through that, super helpful. I'm going to show you one more illustration. It'll cover mostly the same thing that we just saw on that one page of my buyer presentation. But I actually like this one. People have different styles of learning. That last one set up more like a flow chart. That's fine. Some people prefer just text. I'm kind of a visual learner, and so I like to use this one as well. And it just comes down to personal preference. I may make that decision depending on who I'm showing it to, or give them both. And it's basically the same process. We see here, you're going to get pre-approved. We're going to start searching for homes. That's what we're all looking forward to, right? When we start searching for homes, that's what we imagine. When you watch real estate shows on TV, that's what they're doing. They're going and looking at homes. That's exciting. That's fun. Some of that is realistic. Some of it is not. Personally, I would love it if every buyer only saw 3 homes and then chose one out of those 3 and bought it. That'd be awesome. So if you want to do that, I'm down. Let's do it. So after you've gone and you've seen whatever homes fit within the criteria, meet your requirements, you're going to have some decisions to make. In terms of which one you buy, your agent can give you some guidance, but in the end, that's going to be up to you. At that point, you're going to want to make an offer. So how do you know what to offer? Well, you know what the asking price is. But if you have a good agent, they're going to put together a market analysis on that property. Let you know how the market is viewing similar properties in the area, what they've sold for, maybe even how many days on market some of them were, to give you an idea of what the demand is like. And at that point, you can put together an offer using all that data that makes sense for the property. Now, the next part is, and some of these, the order can be changed around as well too, depending on what state you're in, how things are done in the state that you're in. But you'll get into the negotiation phase. So you may make an initial offer, and that offer may not be accepted. That doesn't mean it's over. You may have a seller, for example, that has multiple offers. And that happens a lot in our area here in the Triangle, Raleigh, Cary, Apex. You'll have a lot of homes that are under multiple offers. When that's the case, more often than not, what will happen is if the buyer doesn't just select one of the offers that they already have, or the seller, they will have their agent reach out to the buyer's agents, let them know, listen, this is a multiple offer situation. We'd like your highest and best offer by this date at this time, maybe a day or 2 out. And at that point, we come back and have a conversation with our buyers. Hey, listen, if you want the property, we don't know what the other parties are offering, but we know that there's interest in the home. So, we put in an offer. We were hoping to get that. If you want to sit on that and stay with that, you can, but the odds are it could go up. At that point, they have to decide if it's worth it to either make a higher offer, maybe other terms, possibly a sooner closing date, moving in sooner. Sometimes we can find out what's valuable to the seller and use that to our advantage if possible. Or they may just say, you know what, this is max. This is what we can offer. This is what we feel the home is worth. And we're sticking there. And if we get it, we get it. And if we don't, we don't. And that's fine. Uh, I try to really have my buyers say or understand that although you may love that property and it's great, a week ago, we probably didn't know it existed, right? So if it doesn't work out and we have to continue in the process, it's not the end of the world. At least where we're at here, the market is great. There are a ton of homes available. It's not as much as there normally would be, honestly, this time of year. But in general, you can still find what it is that you're looking for, reasonably. And at this point, let's say you've gone under contract. So there's a couple things you're going to want to do, once that offer is accepted. And it's going to be pending initially. So initially, we're going to go in and have what we have in North Carolina is a due diligence period. Not every state has that. And I'll explain how that works for us. So when you make your offer, there's generally two deposits that are included with that offer. One is your earnest money. Some states may call that just a good faith deposit. Just let them know you're serious about buying the house. That money would go into an escrow account. Generally, the attorneys here hold that, the attorney you've selected for closing. They'll hold that in an escrow account. And at the time of closing, you get that amount credited back to you. So that's there safely. Another arrangement that we have in North Carolina, and I know some states don't because I've worked with buyers from other states as well, is the due diligence deposit. So the way that works here is it really functions like an option, more like an option not to buy the property. So you're saying, I'll give you a due diligence deposit for X amount of dollars. And in exchange for that, I want to have, let's say, 3 weeks. I want 3 weeks where I can go in, have all the inspections done that I want to have, request any repairs that I want done. And, if there's any major issues that to me make it no longer worth it to buy this house and I want out of the contract, that's what I've purchased with that due diligence money. I've purchased the right not to buy this house. So that's an interesting arrangement, but it can be a protection too to the buyer. And it's definitely something you want to keep in mind when you're making an offer on a home. There could be some underlying issue that we're just not aware of. And that's what those inspections are for. On the other hand, you can have no reason at all. You can literally just say, look, we're in the due diligence period. I don't want to go through with this deal anymore for whatever reason. Maybe it's a family emergency or, and you've seen another property, which would be crazy. You'd end up losing a lot of money if you kept doing that. But if you decided you wanted to back out, you do have that right. So that's a protection that's afforded you by using that due diligence deposit. And that money goes directly to the seller. Now, if everything goes as planned and that house, everything works out with the inspections, maybe there's some minor negotiations on repairs back and forth. Maybe they make the repairs. Seller never has to. In North Carolina, they're not required to make any repairs. Even if we think they're important, they can say no. What normally happens is most people want to sell the home if it's under contract. They want to get it done. They'll either maybe make some minor repairs or offer some sort of compensation in lieu of repairs. In the end, all the parties involved generally want to get the deal done. So at that point, once that period is expired, that's it. We're locked in and we're closing on that house. So you want to make sure you have a good agent that can help through that negotiation process to make it as smooth as possible and make sure you get what you need. After that point, really, that's a little bit more smooth sailing after that. The financing will come in. They'll make sure they get their appraisal done. Generally, the realtor, at least in my case, I'll have the inspections done. We'll have done the negotiations, and we'll be done with almost everything on our side probably before the lender has even ordered the appraisal or the appraisal comes in. At that point, hopefully the home appraises for the value of the loan, which is why we do that market analysis before putting in an offer. You don't want to put in a crazy offer if you're dependent on a lender providing those funds. You're going to want that home to appraise for the amount that the home is worth and that you're offering. Once that's done, you'll then receive what we call a closing disclosure from the lender. It'll show where all the monies are allocated, any down payment you may be making, payments and commission. to realtors, legal fees. The attorney will have done title searches and those sort of things. Those fees will be included. And that's important. Title search is huge. You're going to want to make sure that the home is owned free and clear and there's no disputes on the title. You don't want someone coming back after you've bought the house and saying, hey, that's my house. You didn't have the right to buy it. I want that back. Hugely important. So at that point, we're kind of free and clear. We're going to the attorney. Once everything looks good on the closing disclosure, papers are signed, and you're a new homeowner. So that's the point that we want to get to, and that's what these steps are there for. And a realtor is just going to help guide you through those steps to make it as smooth as possible, because that's what you want. You want to have a nice, smooth, easy process, get a new home, everybody's happy. That's what the realtor is there for. Now, what I want to do, over some of these next series of episodes is have some professionals come in, the mortgage lenders, the real estate attorneys, inspectors, home inspectors. And as a matter of fact, I actually have a home inspection today for a client that's going, well, he is under contract. He is under contract for a new construction home, which is a different process altogether. And I may do a different video as well, sort of explaining how that works. But I will be speaking to that inspector today. He does a great job. He's one of the guests that I really want to have on, because he can give you the ins and outs of what they're looking for and what kind of things you can even sort of keep an eye out for when you're initially seeing the home. It's a little bit limited. We're not going to be necessarily getting into all the crawl spaces when we're looking at the home initially, but there are some things we can keep an eye out for. Maybe, take a look at the foundation as we walk around the house. If there's any visible cracks, those kind of things. And I'm not a structural engineer. I don't claim to have construction knowledge. What I do have is access to people that do know that. And so if there are things that come up, red flags, that's when we can call out to the specialist really and find out exactly what we need. And also with the inspector, they're kind of a generalist too. They're going to come in and look at it, and they're going to find areas of concern. And you want to kind of let your clients know not to be freaked out by an inspection report, because they're going to find everything. I mean, a good inspector is going to go and he's going to document anything that could possibly be wrong with this property. They're not all huge issues, to be honest with you. Some things are sort of expected, normal over the ownership of a house, things that come up. You want to know what to prioritize and what to even bother negotiating over. And that's where your agents can help guide you through that process as well. If there's, some chip paint, is that a big deal? No. Interestingly, if it's a VA loan, it could be. So your agent's going to know. There are things that aren't a big deal that you wouldn't even normally address when you're looking at negotiations, but there are certain things that may be required depending on the lender too. So that can get really interesting. But definitely rely on those resources, like your agent and the resources that your agent has. You don't want to go into this blindly. And one of the key points that I want to mention too, at least in our state, if you're a buyer, there is really no reason not to use an agent. It would be crazy to go in unrepresented, whether it's a new home, new construction, whether it's a resale, if nothing else, because it doesn't cost you anything. A lot of people don't realize that, but the buyer does not pay the agent commission. It will not cost you anything. The commission is paid on the seller side. And, you may have some people think, oh, well, yeah, but if I don't use an agent, maybe I can get a better deal, because then they don't have to pay the buyer's agent commission. But just so you know, that really doesn't matter either. What happens is the seller negotiates with hires their agent. Their agent charges a certain amount in commission. There's no set amount in our state. I'm just going to throw out a number. Let's say it's 6%. Let's say their agent's charging 6%. So at that point, that agent has 6% of the projected sale of the home. And he's budgeting that to say, okay, what am I going to spend on marketing? Hopefully it's a good agent that's going to market the house well. Digital marketing, photography. He wants to present the home as well as possible to as many people as possible, and to make it as attractive to agents as buyers as he can. Well, part of that is also, out of that 6%, he's got to pay commission to the buyer's agent. So the other agent actually, out of his commission, is paying that commission to the buyer's agent. And that may be offering, let's say 2.5%, just a number to throw out. Let's say he's offering 2.5% to the buyer's agents. Okay, so that's what your buyer's agent's going to make. But you may go to a different home where it's offering 2, another home where it's offering 3. not a deciding factor. And either way, you don't have to pay them as the buyer. So that's a huge point that you really want to keep in mind. And when you think about it that way, there's really no reason not to use an agent and have representation. That's just another layer of protection for you, and it's invaluable. So I definitely recommend that you keep that in mind before you start going into the buying process. I wouldn't I wouldn't be going even to new construction homes and doing tours or even going to open houses yet before having talked to an agent. I really wouldn't. You want to have that in place and let people know that you're represented. And if you have done that, really be careful what you say. That's a suggestion I would give. If you're talking to anyone in any of those homes, that person is representing the interests of the seller. And I've been the person in that home. I've been the agent that was representing the interests of the seller doing an open house. And I'll be nice. I'm happy to help you out. But if you don't have representation, um, one, might offer to representation for other homes, but not that one. And other than that, anything that you say, it's sort of like when they read you your Miranda rights, anything you say can or will be used against you. It's the same thing in negotiations when it comes to real estate. Now, we can't treat you unfairly, but we can be aggressive. So if I find out, for example, that you're in a bind and you've got to make a move in the next month or two, you can believe I have to tell my client that because that's in their interest to know it. Hey, listen, we have an interested buyer. They got to move quick. They've got to move quick. So they're gonna need to ante up if they want to get this house done, and buy this house as quickly as possible. We could probably be a little bit more aggressive in our negotiating. So keep all that in mind. Use a realtor. And I'm clearly biased on this. I'd prefer you use me, but definitely use one. And if you guys have any other questions, any other topics you want me to sort of get into, let me know. I'm happy to do it. I'll have a lot more videos coming up. And I really want this to be as instructive and helpful as possible, maybe somewhat entertaining, but I want to have really good information. And it's for everyone, for buyers, for sellers, people that are just casually interested in real estate, in the business, and other realtors. And I'll have on some other realtors as well that'll kind of talk about their experience. A lot of people that are buyers or sellers end up having some interest in the business, maybe even wanting to get into it, as agents themselves. And if that's the case, we'll have some experiences and some people coming on that'll talk about what steps they've taken to be successful. And like everyone else, we're all learning. I'm still learning. I have a lot of value out of talking to these folks and the things that I learned from their experience that I try to apply towards my business model. And I think it would be helpful really to everyone. So definitely tune in. I'm going to have some links below to all of my social media accounts. You can feel free to follow me there. My website is DarienCruz.com. You can go there and search for homes anywhere, honestly, not just limited to North Carolina or to this region. Wherever you are, feel free to use that tool. It's great for searching for properties. I have some apps as well, but I'll have links to all my social media accounts. And please, whatever you do, don't forget to like and subscribe below, particularly on YouTube. And this will be going out to all the major platforms, iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you would generally listen to or watch podcasts, this will be there. So thanks again. Look forward to seeing you guys again. Casas in Conversation, people. That's the podcast. That's the name I'm going with. Let me know if you like it. If you have any suggestions, I'm open to them. But as of now, that's what we're locking in at. So this is the first installment, first episode. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. I'm happy to help out in any way that I can. And I look forward to talking to you all again real soon.